Hey guys, it's Bonnie. So it's the end of the year, thank God, which means it's time to talk about all of the end of the year things, including this video, which is, as you can see, my favorite books of 2017. 2017 wasn't a particularly good reading year for me. I only read about 40 books. Honestly, 40 is fine. Like, I don't really get caught up by numbers that much, and it was just not a good motivational year for me. So, you know, I don't really care. I read one book, which is more than most of the population probably does, so, you know, I mean. There's also probably a few books that could be on this list, just given their star ratings or what I've said about it, things like that. But when choosing favorite books, I try to look at it more than just like their rating I gave it or whatever, because honestly, what even are ratings? I tried to pick books that just like really stuck with me, or I just felt, you know, deserved to be on this list, I guess. I don't know why I'm explaining. These are my favorite books of 2017. Let's go. I kind of have these in an order. I think there's 11 of them, which is kind of annoying because like 10 is more even, but like this order could easily change just depending on, I don't know, my mood or, you know, the weather. So take the list ranking with a grain of salt. So coming in at number 11 is Prince's Gambit by C.S. Pacat. I said that name too confidently for not actually knowing how to say it. I debated putting this on the list or not because the first book in this series was really trash. Might be one of my least favorite books of the year, but the other two were just really good. And I wasn't sure how to pick between Prince's Gambit and King's Rising. I don't even, what's the last two books in this series were really, really good, and I know I'm going to be thinking about these characters for a long time, which is why, in my opinion, it qualifies as a favorite book. This series has its faults, absolutely, but overall, like I said, for the millionth time I think now, the characters, I just love them, and yeah. Coming in at number 10 is The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. Obviously, I put this one on the list because we share the same name. This one isn't one that necessarily stuck with me. However, it was just so surprising when I read it. I gave it 5 stars, by the way. I think I gave the other book 4 stars, but you know, like I said, who cares about star rating? I went into this book with such low expectations because I really only bought it because of the cover. Like, I mean, do you see this cover? And typically when I buy books only because of the cover, they end up not being very good. But this was really good. It follows this group of characters that lives in Alaska. I think it takes place in the 70s. And it's just, I don't know, I feel like it's a book to just like kind of pick up and read without really like knowing much because it just feels more special that way somehow. This was just really surprising. I did not expect to love this book so much, and I'm so happy because I mean, the cover is pretty, the inside is pretty, the writing was great. Can't wait to see what Bonnie Sue Hitchcock comes up with in the future because I think this is her debut. Yeah, amazing. Coming in at number 9 is Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken. This is the second book in the Passenger duology, and this is one of the books I read like in the beginning of the year because this came out in the beginning of the year, I believe. As you may or may not know, I love Alexandra Bracken. I've read just about all her books, and I just think she's fantastic. So obviously, I read Passenger when it first came out, and I read Wayfarer when it first came out. This is obviously a concluding novel, so I can't tell you much about the plot, but the first one is about a girl named Etta who finds out that she is a time traveler, and that her family is like a family of time travelers. And she has to find this object so that she can save her mother. What I really loved about Wayfarer is that it felt very different from Passenger. Like, the writing felt very different, but it was still really good. Like, I think it was better than Passenger, if I'm being honest. The action and the characters in this were just so well written. I think it's, you know, really a great concluding novel. She's chunky, but I got through her pretty quickly. And yeah, I really enjoy this duology. I recommend it. Coming in at number 8 is Night Film by Marisha Peschel. First of all, I don't know if the holographicness is picking up on camera, but it's so pretty. I love this cover so much. Night Film is a psychological thriller kind of book that you've probably heard about, but maybe not. It follows this journalist, writer, man thing. And he hears about this girl who committed suicide. And this girl is the daughter of a famous film director. And this film director has a very cult following. Like, his films are released underground. They're really like weird. There's just a lot to his fan base and to him as a person. And when this guy, the journalist man that we follow, Scott, his name is Scott, I'm pretty sure. When he hears about this girl's suicide, he kind of starts investigating. He doesn't think it's a suicide, and he just tries to kind of unwrap the mystery of this director and all of this stuff. That was like a horrible explanation. But this is a really cool book. It is told really interesting. There's like articles and stuff. They're not even coming up, but it was a really cool book. I think there's like maybe like an app or something that you can also follow along with. I can't remember. I didn't do that. I really love books that have anything to do with film because I'm very interested in that. And so like it doesn't have to be like about film necessarily, but if there's any aspect of it in a book, I'm probably gonna like it. And this was just so interesting, like the idea of this director and his cult films and like the creepy and weirdness. And I don't like scary books because I'm a wimp, but this was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I don't think I loved it as much as some other people love it because this gets kind of hyped up a lot, but it was really good. It was really cool, and I think if you're at all interested in it, that you should check it out. I was really long-winded to say that I liked the book. Number 7 is kind of a surprise for me. When I read it, I didn't think like, oh yeah, this book's gonna make my favorite books of the year list, but it has, so. And that is Always and Forever Laura Jean by Jenny Han. Now, I typically enjoy all the Jenny Han books that I read, and I did enjoy the first 2 books in this trilogy. However, I didn't like love the love interest in this series. And so it was always just like, you know, like a 4-star. I think I still gave this 4 stars. But it was just like, you know, it was solid, but it wasn't like, I love it, love it, love it. This book, however, made me really love the characters and the love interest and just everything that goes on. I don't know what it was, if it was like having that time away from the series or what. But I really enjoyed this. I loved all the characters. I thought they were maybe a little more mature. I know like people say, oh, Laura Jean is so like kiddish or whatever in the first 2 books, but you know, they're young adult books, so what do you expect? But in this one, I just really enjoyed the kind of like graduating high school and looking in colleges and all of that part of it. And I don't know, I just loved the characters in this one a whole lot more. And yeah, if you haven't read a Jenny Han book, I suggest it. If you haven't read a Jenny Han book, I suggest it if you like contemporary because hers are always really well written. I love the family aspects in her books as well. That always seems to be a theme. I love this family. I love Laura Jean and Kitty and Margot and their dad. Yeah, this was really nice. I wasn't sure if it needed a trilogy when I first heard that this was coming out. Like, I didn't know if it needed another book, but I'm glad that she wrote another one because this was a nice way to wrap it up. Coming in at number 6 is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This is another book that I read the very, very, very beginning of this year. I think I read it January 2nd and I read it in like a day. I also read Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon in the same time frame. Like, I read both of her books like consecutively in the first 2 days of the year, and she's definitely cemented herself as one of my new favorite authors, and I'm gonna read anything she writes ever. This is the one I chose to put on my favorites list though because I just thought this was so beautiful. It had potential to be really cheesy because there's kind of this insta-love romance thing. If you don't know, this story is about 2 people who meet. One is a girl named Natasha, I believe, and her family is getting deported back to Jamaica, I believe it is. And so this kind of follows her on that day, and she's trying to like figure out if there's anything she can do to stop it. And during this process, she meets a boy named Daniel. And Daniel is struggling with his family's pressure to get into like a really good like Ivy League school. I think he has like an interview for Yale or something, I think. And basically they meet, and it's about, oh my god, stop screaming. And basically they meet, and it's just about how, you know, little everyday occurrences affect your life. And there's like perspectives in here from like just random people that they come across that you don't realize how they have touched these people and how everyone is connected and everything is connected, just like the cup. It's just such a beautiful book. I'm not making any sense. But if you haven't read this, you absolutely have to. It was amazing. Number 5 is actually a poetry collection, and that is, well, not a collection, it's just like one poem. And that is Said the Shotgun to the Head by Saul Williams. It was just absolutely beautiful. I don't really know how to talk about poetry, but this was just really good. I have a couple of tabs in here because the writing is just so gosh darn beautiful. This page right here, it says, "She kissed as if she alone could forge the signature of the sun," which is just so pretty. I think I forgot to mention that, but that's how this poem is kind of told. It talks about a kiss, and within that it talks about racism and feminism. This quote on the back, I really like it. It says, "Said the shotgun to the head is an invitation to live and die in the moment, a confrontation of the politics of empire, a dare to transform oneself in the face of fear, and a post 9/11 love song all in one." This is just really good, and if you like poetry, I recommend it, so read it. Even if you don't like poetry, read it. Number 4 is a book I'm sure you have all heard of by this point, and that is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. This follows a girl named Star who witnesses her friend killed by a police officer, and so it's kind of inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, and it just talks about the aftermath of that, and the experiences that happen with speaking up and using your voice and just, you know, all that kind of stuff. This obviously touches on very important topics like racism and activism, but it is also very family oriented, which is what I really loved about it. What it put it over the top for me was just Star and her family and the way they would interact. This book had funny moments, even though it was, you know, very serious at the same time. And I just thought Angie Thomas's writing was really great, and it was a great read. Obviously, it's getting praised for a reason. So yeah, I thought this was really important, really well done, and if you haven't read it, absolutely get on it. There's a movie coming out too, which is gonna be great. Yeah, can't wait to read whatever Angie Thomas writes in the future. Number 3 is another surprise, I guess you could say. When I was looking at the books that I read this year and, you know, picking out my favorites, this one I kept like being like, where do I put this on the list? And every time I would give it a number, I'd be like, no, that's too low. I really enjoyed that book. And I don't have a physical copy of it because I listened to it on audiobook, and it is Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. I don't know what it was about this one, but I just really loved it. I love Anna Kendrick, first of all. I think Anna Kendrick is so funny and just so interesting, and I loved everything that she talked about in this. She was funny, of course, but she also touched on some really interesting and important topics, and it was just great to listen to. If you like Anna Kendrick, I highly recommend it. It put me in a good mood, and it's something that I could actually see myself like listening to again, just because I really enjoyed it. I think I only gave it 4 stars, but it's probably maybe more 5-star in my heart. Coming in at number 2 is Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour, which was another big surprise for me. I had not realized that I would love this book so much, but oh my god, I love this book. I read it in one day, and I don't know what it was about it. It has some film aspects, which definitely got me hooked, but I just loved the characters. I loved the story. I loved everything about this book. It follows a girl, I think her name is Emmy, and she works as like a set designer, which is a really cool job, by the way. I never even thought about like set design, but that's so cool. And she is at an estate sale of a Hollywood, like big Hollywood actor or something. And she finds this letter that kind of like leads her on this journey, and it's just a really good book. It has LGBTQIA representation. It's wonderfully written. The characters are lovely, and it was just a very big surprise to me. Absolutely one of my favorite books of all time now. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be one of them, but it was really good. I don't even know what to say. It was just really good. If you haven't read this, I highly recommend it. And number 1 on my list, it's a little trashy. I'm sorry, but it's true. A Quart of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I read this for the first time this year, and holy crap, did I fall in love with it. I didn't even love ACOTAR that much, so when I read this one, I was like, holy shit. This is easily the best book that Sarah J. Maas has ever written. I don't think she will ever top this. I don't even know how. I know there's problems with her writing, with her characters, her lack of diversity. But this book was just so good. I love Reese. I love Farah. I love Lucian. The Night Court, the Court of Dreams, the whole inner circle, I love it. I don't think I need to talk about this too much because I think everyone knows what this is, but yeah. I love it. I know, it was so good. And those are my favorite books of 2017. Wow, can't believe this year is over, but pretty glad that it's over. Let me know what your favorite books of 2017 are down below because I would love to know. Let me know if we have any of the same, and until then, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Happy New Year! That was so lame.